This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
We're going to switch gears here and go into the starting rotation. And I also got a little bit of a graphic for that for us. As of right now, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, I have penciled in there as well, Frankie Montas, and Clay Holmes as the 5 starters. But I assume that the Mets are going to go into this with 6. And in the final spot, I have, Paul Blackburn and Griffin Canning with a star, being that one of these guys could be in the bullpen. And I for funsies, I wanted to throw Brandon Sproat in there. He's down there in spring training right now. We all know the way David Stearns operates when acquiring starting pitching. But to me, I think he's taking a significant gamble in hoping, lightning strikes twice here. Am I wrong to think that?
No, I mean, you're just, with this, you're just taking sizable risk with some of the names that you pick and you sign, like, Frankie Montas. You have to understand too that Stearns, the way he does it, think about the player, right? You have like Manaea last year and Severino, and now this year you have Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes. These guys want to prove something. I'll sign for whatever. Give me a shot and let me give you my absolute best so that I can go out. I mean, Severino signed the biggest deal in A's history, right? Like after his year last year, after everyone thought he was cooked. But he was given that 1-year chance to prove himself, make a change, follow what the Mets pitching philosophy is, and go from there. And this year, you're taking a little bit of that risk again with Montas and Holmes. Again, who knows what Griffin Canning is, but I like it, even though most fans would say no to that. They want someone more tried and true, which I totally understand. Pencil him in for 35 starts. Give me an ace. You need an ace to go far. But, I mean, these guys, you could get an insane year out of Montas. Clay Holmes could turn into an amazing starting pitcher, or they won't, and you cut bait and move on. So it's a unique strategy that David Stearns is using, maybe waiting until Sproat's ready and Tidwell is ready and Dom Hamill is finally ready. There's some of those minor league guys that could come up and you don't have to sign them for, $30 million over 2 years. You have $750,000 on your payroll for them. That's what the hope is. And it's going to be maybe a revolving door for the pitching staff for the next few years because of those strategies. But you understand why they work, right? I mean, look at how Manaea did and how Severino did, because they were given that opportunity to prove themselves again. And every single guy, if you go through Senga, right? He's going to have to prove himself this year again, even though he's making a lot of money. David Peterson, was last year a fluke? Did you get lucky, or did you make a change? Did you actually figure something out that was different? Peterson pitched some huge games last year. Paul Blackburn, the man's never been healthy in his major league career. Came over at the trade deadline, got hurt again. He has something to prove this year. When you do that, when you dangle the carrot on the stick for competitors, they want to eat that carrot. And that's why David Stearns' strategy is so unique, can be frustrating, but really works sometimes.
Which of these new acquisitions that the Mets made are you looking forward to seeing pitch the most, and why?
It's a good question. I think Holmes is unique because I really, really, really want to know how they're going to figure it out. Because Clay Holmes has never thrown more than 70 innings in a season, you need to have a starting pitcher arsenal versus a reliever arsenal. And, as a reliever, Edwin Diaz throws fastball slider. You can get away with that for an inning. You can't get away with that for 5 innings. You have to throw a bunch of different pitches. And so Holmes does have a few different pitches, but how do they figure Clay Holmes out? That's one. And again, I'm kind of with everybody else. I think Montas is going to be really good. Why in the world are they signing Griffin Canning in a good way? What are they going to find with this guy where, right, that Fox is going to come in and do a Saturday game in May and be like, where did the Mets get Griffin Canning? They figured out his changeup is insane. I like those projects because you don't see them coming. That's why we're all in love with what Iglesias did last year and Severino and Manaea, because you just don't expect it. But can you find that diamond in the rough within a guy? And I think those two are unique. I think overarching theme, though, I truly think Kodai Senga is going to have an amazing year. I think he is still elite. in baseball, if you didn't pitch for a year, you are totally forgotten about, even though your talent is still, terrific. And what we saw in year one with Senga was he got better as the year went on, and the way he finished was incredible. 2025 for Senga, it sucked. I mean, 2024 sucked. Excuse me. It was embarrassing. He wanted to be out there. He felt like he wasn't part of the team. And not that he let them down in the playoffs, but that wasn't him. We all know that that wasn't him. A 1 or 2 inning Kodai Senga. Is he healthy? Is he not? So I think coming into this year, Kodai, wants to be part of this. He's going to be really good. And of all the starters, he is the one with the highest ceiling, right? He could be the most elite if everybody pitched at their very best, that their parents wanted them to, right? Kodai could be the best one out of all of them if he's right, and I truly think he'll be right.
You think Sean Manaea can keep up with that arm slot angle that he was doing? Because he changed it after seeing Chris Sale. When Chris Sale came with Atlanta, I think I was at that game, and I was just amazed at how well Chris Sale was pitching. I think that was, if I'm for certain, that might have been the no-hitter game that they were about to throw, and then I think JD Martinez hit a home run in the ninth to end that. But I think it was that game. Chris Sale was amazing, and just to see Sean Manaea switch his arm slot and was able to carry that for like the entire rest of the season there, I thought that was huge. We all know he got tired in the postseason. Does Sean Manaea fall back into? Is he somewhere in between? Do we get to see another level of Sean Manaea that we haven't seen before?
I think what Manaea learned last year working with Jeremy Hefner, some of the biggest takeaways from him were just, it's so weird to say, right? Because this is a guy 8, 9, 10 years in. He felt more and more like himself the more he lowered his arm. And it's like, how did we get here where it takes 10 years for you to feel comfortable with your body? But when you go to different places and you have different pitching coaches and pitching philosophies that tell you, do this, do that, they didn't ask you how you feel about it. They just want you to do it. Jeremy Hefner is a little bit more of a therapist. That's why he works so well. He tries to feel each guy out in a different way, and Sean Manaea and him clicked. And so as the year went on, the tinkering, this late in his career, it's kind of like that Nimmo-esque tinkering. How can I get better? I think Sean Manaea last year established what he does really well, the arm slot, right? Toward the end of the year, he started to figure that out. He went on that really amazing run in August and September. And you're absolutely right. He ran out of gas in the playoffs. I think that's why he didn't start game one against the Dodgers. They tried to give him an extra day, and it just ran out of gas. So I think coming into this year, where you know that feeling, you know what's expected, you know you don't have to introduce yourself to a new pitching coach. You can do the same things. I think he wants to get his changeup better this year. That's probably the only real big improvement. But now it's going to be, can you pace yourself out over the full season to be ready in October? There's a little bit of the Mets that in October – they were running on fumes, vibes, whatever you want to call it. By the time they ran into the Dodgers hit them with their best shot, and the Mets could only hit back with so much because it was exhausting emotionally on everybody to get that far. Coming into this year, now you know what that feels like. You know I have to be really, really good to get there, but also have something left when we get in there. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Manaea this year. Again, another guy, too, that wants to be here. He could have signed a huge deal somewhere else. Yeah. Not for a lot of years, but for a lot of money. And he came back because he wants to be here. He's a big-time vibes guy, like an Iglesias was. So someone who's just salt of the earth in that clubhouse that makes everybody better, leads by example, quiet, good guy, hard worker. I like the signing. I didn't think they would do it because I didn't think David Stearns would want to shell out a ton of money for Manaea. Well, he didn't have to because Sean said, maybe I'll punt on $5 or $6 more million a year, and I'll come back to the Mets because this is where I want to be.
Yeah, it seems like that Stearns-Cohen combination in this front office, it really feels like they got outside of Juan Soto, who, you're going to have to do the outbidding for. It seems like the Mets got everyone they wanted on the deals that they wanted. And that even goes into arbitration as well. You look at the numbers and they fared pretty well in arbitration. One last thing on the rotation, because I assume that we are going to see somewhat of a 6-man thing here. I mentioned the names there, based on stuff alone and what you've seen, who do you think starts the season in the rotation in that last spot? Is it a Paul Blackburn? Is it a Griffin Canning? Could we possibly see, Brandon Sproat here come here just the way that Christian Scott did last season?
The Sproat one is so crazy interesting because he absolutely flew up the system last year to the point where I think it got, some of the New York writers were asking David Stearns, are we going to see this kid this year? And in the Mets' eyes, Sproat, I think, went too fast for them. So I think they want to see how he does in spring, see how he does in big league camp. Start him off in some spring training games, I would imagine, see how he feels. If the lights get bright for him there, I do think that they start Sproat out, barring an insane spring. I think they start him out in AAA just to get him used to the baseball again. It's a different ball in AAA than it is at some of the lower levels of the minors. That's why a lot of guys struggle. So I'd love to see Sproat, but I don't think they want to throw him into the fire in April, because what we learned from David Stearns, you don't have to win the division or a wild card spot in March and April. You can win it when you need to win it in August and September, and Sproat could be that guy. So the sixth starter, I do know I want to see Paul Blackburn this year because I thought he's just like that perfect 4 or 5 guy that'll give you 5 good innings. I think he's going to start out a little bit late because of that spinal surgery that he had last year. So I'm looking at, like you said, Griffin Canning. What are they going to do with Buto? Are they going to make Buto a starter again? That's, I think, something that they might have thought about going into the offseason. You still have Tyler McGill there. So that sixth spot, it's again deeper. You have a lot more options. I think last year it was Adrian Hauser, Tyler McGill, and bust. I mean, this year you're going to have Canning and Blackburn along with Buteau and McGill to choose from. So I wonder how they handle that, because with Holmes, is Holmes going to give you 4 in the beginning of the season? Is he going to give you 5 innings? I don't know how they ramp him up because, again, he's a reliever turned starter. Does he have a piggybacker, somebody that throws behind him every single time in the rotation? A lot of questions when you put this starting rotation together. But for now, I'm guessing Canning is the guy. McGill still, he has, it's amazing. He has some of the best stuff just individually in the Mets clubhouse. Just putting it together is the hard part. Where are they with him? He's always tried to put his best foot forward. He's always kind of been okay, right, as that spot starter. And then what do they do with Buteau? These are some of the things that are swirling around my little head right now.